Audible and everything. No background noise. I have the AC on.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how was the homework?
I think I'm lost.
That's
I
fine.
couldn't really figure it out completely.
That's fine. Which one?
I didn't even bother the Pokemon one. I was still trying to figure out the Selenium one.
Okay. That's fine. Yeah, the Pokemon one ended up being harder than I realized, but it's still doable. I probably should have given it a longer time frame, but it's something I still want you guys to work on. Well, now you realize like this is not something you can work on at the last minute. I actually wanted you
Yeah.
to start ASAP. That's because even if it's a simple feature like leveling up, it's gonna the execution ends up being way harder. But the Selenium one should have been a little more straightforward because you guys with the companion video you should know the library. But
Yeah.
yeah, let's
So
work on
that
that. Say again.
like I all the clicking and stuff, like even the clicking the options for the sort. I got that part, but it's more. I don't understand like how do you get like the text from the website and all that, and then like yeah, that's exactly where I got stuck.
Okay,
Like
that's fine.
I don't know how to get the text and then um like you said to try both options by index. When you select by index and select by visible text,
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm doing the visible text thing properly because when I tried that, like it just did nothing. So I just used by index, and that one looked like easier.
No, that's fine. So obviously you see nothing on my screen again. I always like to start from bare bones. But let me import some of the stuff I have so I don't have to do it all over again. Give me a second.
Also, just a like side question: how like you have all this shit memorized? Like, I guess that just comes with practice. But like all these like for instance, if you're trying to type driver dot find element parentheses by dot xpath, long ass
Straight. No,
code like
I get what you're saying.
right?
It does come with experience. Like you gotta kind of mentally jump through stuff you already know and not try to look too far into it. But it's something that does
I know.
come with experience. The more you do it, I don't look at it all in one go. Like so, for instance, let me just import a few. Well, all
Like
the
I could read the code and I know exactly what's going on. But if you tell me to type it up by scratch, I'll forget what I'm supposed to type.
yeah, for sure. I know what you're saying. Give me a second. Let's say test selector or test filter. I got all this from last week. So don't worry about this line 40. I'll tell you what it is. But let me just make sure it works. Oh. Took a while. All right. Okay, so this just pulls it up. Let me. So obviously you guys were able to get past the login screen. So let me copy paste that as well. So I'll just narrow it down to where your problem point was. And this is despite you guys the companion vid you looked at it and that still didn't help, right?
Um, it gave me ideas. Like if I could just figure out how to select the text, then I think the rest of the companion video would have actually helped me
Okay.
uh, to actually go through the text.
Yeah, that's fine. As long as you attempted it, that's all I look for. So that way I don't have to keep talking, and you could fill me in on which part it was that was confusing. Ish, same thing with you? Or you didn't get to attempt it?
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to.
Okay. Okay, so let me increase the timer, and I'll log in. Say again?
I was trying random stuff, but when I tried to go, like, I don't know, I probably did it wrong, but when I tried to get, like, the string text for, like, the name of the product, it gave me, like, the XPath. Or maybe, I don't know. I don't
No, that's fine. That's why, like, the only way to get this, I could lecture this stuff all I want, or, like, for hours, and then it's not going to help until you try experimenting. That's why I wanted you guys to get good with Git first. That way you can mess around with the code as much as you want, but it's a matter of, doing... I mean, you guys are still aware of the basic Git functionalities, right? With the videos, like if you ever mess up too much, you don't have to worry because you could always restore it to a state where it was working. Like, so for this exact problem, what I would have done if I was starting out, I would have saved the state here. I would committed the state here, named it something where I could easily, refer back to it. And I would just mess around with this until it made sense. That's really the only way to get it. Like, I could only kind of...
To make a new branch?
No, you don't even have to make a new branch. Well, yeah, you could, actually. That's actually a good idea. So what I would have done is this. That way you're never too scared to, experiment. And that's the only way to understand it. To answer your question, that's like the only way I really got decent at this stuff was never through any kind of lecture. It was just through experimenting. And then it starts becoming like, this is not even a Git repository. So, yeah, so I would init. And just because you init doesn't mean you have to push it to any type
I don't think you taught us that.
No, I did. Git init.
Git init?
Yeah, so basically if any folder is not... So, okay. I'm glad you brought that up because that's really important. Otherwise, you can't use Git in the first place. So let's say I'm in my workspace, right? And I create any type of folder. Let's say it's a test folder, right? And obviously, all right, let me go inside here and make random file, right? That means I could open this up. I could type stuff into it, save, exit out, and if I open it, whatever. And let's say at this point, a code repository, like I said before, is not any different from any type of other file with, or folder with files in it, right? Maybe I want to just work on some kind of document, and just like with code, if I don't want to modify, well, I don't want to make like really bad changes to it, I would use Git here. So look at what I could do to it. I would go into this directory, this test folder, right? If I hit git status, like these are commands you guys all should be used to by now. Clearly it'll say failed, not a Git repository, right? Because not everything is a Git. Git is a separate program in itself, and you have to initiate the folder for it to be, for you to even use these Git commands. So for the very first thing I do, and I'll create a companion file for Git as well, just to keep everything fresh. So I'd go into, so right now I'm in that test folder. I would init, right? So initialize empty Git repository in that test folder. And if you see the status, it refers to that random file here, right? And someone walk me through how I could add that or commit it.
You do git add.
Okay.
Dot.
Yeah, that would be everything, right? Like that would be if I had multiple. Oh, this would work, but how else could I do it?
If you want to do just, then you just type in the file name.
Which is what?
What did you? Whatever that is, random file.
Yeah, let me maximize it. Right, and if you see, if I put status, you'll just get reflexively use status, and it'll tell you, all right, a new file is ready to be committed, right? And at that point, you commit it with whatever you want to type, as long as it serves your purposes. Or say like I could say ready to work on the project. anything you want, right? And then if I type git log, you'll see ready to work, and you'll see like a history, a version history. But yeah, going back to our actual project. So now I'll delete this. Going back to our actual project, I get it. Trust me, I get when you don't want to mess around with what works, and but if you start from this point, you don't even have to mess around with too many methods. Just work on this one method where simply you're, trying to automate it, and once you actually have something going, then you kind of break it down into parts, right? Don't worry too much about making abstract classes or anything. Just get it to work, and after that you kind of experiment with making it more readable with classes. So going back to the project. So now you see, since it's in new initialized repository, you see all these files like before. And at that point, a dot is useful, right? So I'll say git commit ready. Usually, traditionally, you say initial commit. All right. Now you see it's clean, it's ready, right? And you're in the master branch. And if you wanted, like Berm said, if you go to branch, you see there's only one. The master branch is automatically given to you. But let's say you wanted to test selector specifically, and let's say you already had your main code here, it's working, you don't want to mess with it, so you leave that in master and you just create, you see git branch and you say test filter, right? And then that filter branch will will have exactly what's in the master branch, and all left is what? How do I observe what's in here?
Git branch out something?
Say again?
Branch out?
Close.
No, check out.
Yeah. Right? And just to convince you, we're in the test filter branch. Let me save it here, right? So right now it says I'm in the test filter branch. I save this in the test filter branch. And now since I modified this, I could add, commit, added comment, let's say. Still in the test filter branch, but let's see what happens when I'm back to master. That's right. You don't see it right away, but if I hit save, you don't see that comment anymore. So now you know if anytime you're in the master branch, you can easily just go back to check a test filter. And it's really important you guys use this. I know it's a little tricky at first. There's a lot of commands to memorize, but it's really worth it. You see the test filter comment again. Now you could experiment with it all you want, and you don't have to worry about game-breaking changes. But just use that even from the start. Like I know in the homeworks I said just from the get-go just use initialize your project with git. Without even doing anything. If you're gonna do one thing, do that first, and then progress after. But going back to this, so we ran it. We went through the login scenario and everything, and this could go after, right? Sleep and quit is just to make us or let us be able to run through the website and make sure it looks good before it quits. So, like I said, you guys got the XPath for this, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
That part was easy.
Yeah. So what was the XPath?
What you said in the video was select.
Oh, I probably did. Yeah.
Yeah, because that was it was just select.
Is there any other way to do that? If select was too broad?
Let me see what you mean. Let me just pull it up first.
I mean, I did it by select, but I'm saying is there another way to get that button by
You could do select and then ID at product _sort _ container.
That's what I put, but I'm saying
Say again. Let me do that one more time. How'd you put it? Select. It pretty much ruins it for you, right? It gives you all the suggestions here, but it's good to get used to it yourself. But what were you saying? What'd you use?
Get more specific. Instead of just select, you could do select then bracket at
Class.
Yeah, like basically everything here, right? You can make it more specific. But the reason I put just select in the video was just to show you that always look from top to bottom, and just like Google Chrome processes this HTML to produce this the UI. You could do it the same way. Like technically, you have all the information here to like if you knew HTML, technically you could read this, and based on how it's branched, right, you could know exactly where each element goes just based off reading this alone. There's nothing this sees that you don't right here. But the reason I picked select was just to show you that, hey, if there's nothing else, no other select tag here, you can just click select. But if, for instance, I wanted to get this, where you see it right, this title right here, where I'm highlighting, well, I think there aren't any other spans either. Let me check. No, you see this span.
That toolbar you're typing into.
Yeah.
How'd you get that? I forgot to get that.
Yeah,
where you
this
type
is,
something in there.
Yeah, this is important. Like you should remember. Did you download the Selectors Hub plugin for Chrome?
Right. Yeah, I did, but why is it not there anymore?
Click the double arrows.
Yeah, but it's not there anymore.
No, one thing you gotta remember, this could be your problem. Like, let's say I ran this. Let me show you what happens. If I hit play, I'll hit run. It'll create a new thing right here. Right? And obviously the test case is done. You'll see this blank out after 5 seconds. But this is still up. But this instance of Chrome is not the same instance of the Chrome in your machine. So let me show you what I mean by that. So you see this, and telltale sign is when it says Chrome is being controlled by an automated test software. That means this doesn't have the plugin that you installed initially. So Berm, you're probably likely using the one that you summoned, the Chrome instance you summoned using the code. Yeah, so if you look here, if I inspect this.
That's a good point.
Yeah. No, I'm glad you brought that up. I forgot to mention that. So obviously this instance won't have the plugins you've installed. If I hit this, you won't see that Selectors Hub. So that's why that quit is important, because it quits out that session so you don't end up mistakenly using it again.
That's what happened. I commented out that quit part.
Yeah. So, okay. So now that we're up to this, tell me which part was giving you guys trouble.
Before you do that, how do you use select by visible text? That didn't work for me.
Yeah, actually select by visible text didn't work for me either. That's why I said it was select by visible text that didn't work for me. Let me see which one did work for me. I remember that am I having the same issue? Give me a second. So now I'm in the main screen. And in the real world, you know how I'm like painstakingly typing XPath for this, XPath for that. Once you have more tools, it'll be much more clean. You don't have to do it like this, but that's for later. The only reason I'm doing it for this is just to kind of drill it into your head. Okay, driver.find element, and like we said. Let me put that down here. So first, at any point, if you don't do this, if I did this, what would happen? If I left it here?
Nothing, because it's like a drop down. So
well, let's see. No, that's a good point, but let's see what would happen. Usually better to confirm.
They probably won't see it.
Well, you still click it, right? Since it's a web element, you still click it, but it doesn't have all these added functionalities of cycling through the actual options, right? Because selectors are just a specific type of web element. right? This is a type of web element, if you want to think of a link in a way where you click it, it leads you to another page. This is a web element that if you click, you click it and it does its initial thing, but then it has, extra additions. So obviously you need a separate class, not directly related to a web element, to handle it. So that's where the select comes in. So filter, let's say. So click didn't work. Why? What happens if I leave it like that? Why is this giving me red?
Because you need to.
Well, what does click return you? What do you think?
Click doesn't return anything.
Right, it's void
Or-
most likely.
yeah.
Let's make sure.
Whereas the selector has
You
options.
see? I just clicked into, if you want to make sure, look at the method. I just clicked into that method, it says void. And a void is not a web element, right? Clearly. This part returns a web element, right? Which, if I hover over it, you see it returns a web element, right? But this has a method in it where if you click, it converts it into a, a function that doesn't return anything, a void.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay. And now, as we saw with the select class, it accepts that web element, right? And now you can handle that. Now it's no longer just a web element, right? And now, like I told you guys, just experiment, see what works, see what doesn't. And now it's just a matter of, now you know for a fact it handles it, right? And I told you could use, so let me see what did you use, Fa? You said select by visible text?
I tried that. That didn't work, so I put by index.
Okay. I mean, if that worked, that's fine. Right?
Is visible text supposed to work?
No, it should.
Also?
I mean, it should. But if they're like, let's say this is not working for you and you have limited time, you could use something else if it works for you for that way. Like I did do select by index, and I think it was select by value that worked for me. Let me try that. So in here, what I'll do is, hang on. I don't know why it's not dropping down. Give me a second. So let me try this. And if you don't want to, type it out yourself, if you inspect it and you drop that down, you'll see the text right here. So let me see if they let you copy and paste. Yep, that worked. All right. No, but this won't tell you that you actually clicked it.
When you're running this like select by value thing, is it like just parsing through it, like the entire list, looking?
Yeah,
for that?
pretty much. Yeah.
I copied the name by visible text. Was I supposed to do that in a normal situation?
What do you mean?
Or was I supposed to like copy like the entire line, like option value equals?
No. You wouldn't. Depending on the method. So let's actually do what you first did. So select by value, I just realized would target it based on these attributes, this value attribute, and that would be A, Z, Z, A, low, high, low, right? That's just what the developers assigned it. But let's try something else. What you did, Fa, select by visible text.
The first one I tried, and then I
This
put
one,
the
right? This was the one you tried?
yeah.
All right, so let's try that. And
Name A to Z, just like it is in the.
let's do this, because since A to Z is selected by default, we're not gonna know if it works. So let's try this. Price low to high. So like this, and then we'll let it wait and see if it works. So let me hit run. And this, by the way, this is pretty much how bots work. No different. This is what RK uses to. See, it worked. Price low to high. So what were you doing?
Maybe because I put name A to Z, I probably didn't
Yeah,
realize
you
like.
probably didn't realize it's the same as the first option. You get what I'm
Oh,
saying?
okay.
So it
Yeah.
didn't do the whole drop down. It didn't do this. It didn't do this and show you that it clicked A to Z. It just since it's a selector, it just did it automatically. So
Yeah.
what you should have done is you should have tried a different value to see it happening for you.
Actually, for the by index, I used the second one, Z to A, and that's why I saw it and assumed that one worked and the other one didn't.
Yeah. So Berm, is this where you were stuck at too?
I mean, no, I got that part.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not the part I got stuck.
Okay.
And then after I used by index. I used
Right. So
Z
you
to
were
A.
able to flip through the filters, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I just did select by index 0 to
Yeah.
do
Yeah. That's fine.
Z.
Yeah. Okay. Whatever works for you. It doesn't matter. Okay. Let's keep going then. So at what point?
I didn't know how to like get the text for products it kept
Yeah.
returning me.
Much beyond this, I was stuck.
No, that's fine. All right, so let's see. First of all, clearly all the products that we're trying to get the text for are, and I think this might have been I mean, you would have had to pay attention to the video because it was a slight distinction between selecting one element of one type and selecting a bunch. There's a slight distinction of the methods. So
Yeah.
so that
Find
might,
element versus find elements.
yeah, that's a very strong,
That
important.
part.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
it's a
that
strong.
took me a while to figure out.
No, I got you. Okay. So let me inspect it. All right.
Oh wait, is that
Say again.
wait? Is that how you do it? Actually, all right, whatever. Just continue.
No. Well, first I'm inspecting it to see if there's find a commonality, right?
Yo, didn't we figure that part out already? Like,
Well, yeah, we did. I'm just trying to reset. So obviously, let me see. It tells you right here, inventory item name. If I hit enter, it gives all of this to you, right? So at that point, what I would have done, so let's leave the select by physical, let's say low to high, right? Okay, so far so good. My bad. Okay. So after selecting that, I would have done, let me see if I have it. Oh, we have it right here, right?
yeah.
Already. Okay. So what is it that if I use find elements over find element, what is it gonna return to you?
Like a list.
A list of what?
The elements.
Yeah, web element. I'm just trying to get you used to the terminology. So for instance, if I did this, well, okay, even a better question. Let's do it like this. What do you think this is going to return? Read that carefully.
Get text.
Wait, what was the question?
So I just printed this. I mean, I just wrote the string down in line 58. I just want you to tell me, once this runs through the script, once it selects by visible text, obviously it's going to land here, price low to high. I just want to know what this will print out onto the console.
Okay, will that print out all the text?
What do you mean all text?
All the names of the titles of each product.
So you're saying it'll give me Saw Slabs onesie, Saw Slabs bike light, like that?
Yeah.
Basis.
Okay. Any other? I'll hit run, but anyone else have an answer?
Or it'll give you the XPath.
No, you're right. It should give me the title. title meaning what's written here. So basically the get text method, anytime you select a web element, whether it be over here, whether it be here, because this itself, if I inspect it right here, this is a separate, let me try to inspect it. Keeps, doesn't work. Let me try it like this. So for instance, if I were to use the XPath for this, // div @class equals inventory item description, that would give me this entire text here, rib snap infant onesie for etc, right? So all of that is separate, and obviously because we're using the XPath for product titles, you could see it right here. It selects everything here. Now all I'm asking, you're right, this is don't think about the XPath. It'll give you the exact title name, but what exactly is it gonna print?
All of it in one line.
All of it, like Sauce Labs onesie, Sauce Labs bike light, this, right? So that's the answer. All right, let's run and see what happens. Let's see what we got here. So just selected this, right?
Yeah, I only got the first one.
Why is that?
Because it said find element.
Find element, right? Why else? Because the XPath refers to each. You could clearly see that it all being selected, right? We use the same exact XPath to refer to the XPath for products. Nonetheless, it selects Sauce Labs onesie.
So it's just gonna put the first one.
Why?
Because it's just finding one element.
Yeah, but give me a little more. Why is it that despite this XPath referring to each one of the titles, I only return, the first item's title?
Well, we didn't read through all the titles.
Right.
Find element finds this one first element.
Right.
First
yeah, exactly. Right, exactly. Find element, that's a huge distinction that's really important between find element, singular, and elements, right? Yeah, this XPath does refer to each product, right? But if we use find element, it's just going to track the first one that satisfies this criteria, right? Even though this refers to each one, because we use that specific method for singular find element, it's going to go down the list, and once it hits this first one, it satisfies the condition technically. It'll return that and it's done with the script. So let's see, instead of that, let me comment that out. So you see, right when you go find element, you'll see two options, find element and find elements. So if I go to find elements, I can't do it this way. Let me show you what I mean. So same exact thing. Find elements by.xpath for products, right? And you see there's no get text, like nothing auto populates, right? Why?
Because you can't do it.
Well, be more specific.
Because it's a list.
Exactly.
So.
Right. You see, if I go to get, it doesn't say get text. It's the get method for a list, right? That makes sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So instead of doing that, how do you think, knowing what you know now, I still want to get all the names. How do I do that?
You gotta use a for loop.
Right. All right. So tell me exactly what to type.
For I equals 0. The list again, or
for I less than
We didn't do it yet, right? We commented it out. So yeah, you just headed too quickly to the for loop. So what do we need to prepare ahead of time before we could implement the for loop? We need the size of the list, right? So how do we do that?
Right. So int size equals driver. So you would find the elements.
Using plural, right?
Yeah, and then at the end you would put dot size.
Okay.
So that's what I mean. Like, I would forget exactly what to type.
So now you complete it like this, right? Okay. Now what?
You put system dot out. Line.
So this is going to be the specific numbers, right? So yeah, we could have gone this approach, but maybe it's a better idea to just store it in the list, right? So instead of doing this, let me comment it out. Maybe it's a good idea to do this, right? Right, and that all gets, stored here, right? So now we could still do the size thing, but maybe let me just delete that. Okay, how should I do it now? Now it should be a little more obvious. So obviously all the expats are in this are stored in this list of web elements. Now what?
There's gotta be products dot size.
Right. Okay. Now?
Mm-hmm. Can't you do this thing?
So I just want to print the titles, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So can't you use? Would it be products dot get to?
Yep. So let's say obviously you want to print it, and products dot get.
Yeah. Does that work?
So that'll still give you a what?
XPath?
Well, not XPath. What is this? What do the lists contain? If I say get, right? It's not a string.
Text?
Yep. So how do I get the text and not the web? I'll show you what happens if I just print this. But what's the proper way of doing it? Since right now, what does this get you so far?
Not sure then. It's not XPath then.
No, I mean, what does this list contain?
Oh.
That should give you the first thing. Sauce Labs onesie.
Let's run it. See what happens. So far, there's no errors, so why not run it? Let's see. So what just happened here?
It does give XPath.
It's not an XPath, right? It's,
Yeah,
it is. It does show you an. Yeah, it does show you an X. Say again?
That's what I was getting when I was trying the homework.
No, right. It does give you the XPath, but all this is just a reference to a web element. That's what I was trying to get. So you're not storing XPaths. XPath is just a piece of a web element, if that makes sense, right? Yeah, you're right. The XPath, you do get a piece of the XPath, but this in its totality is called a web element, right? And you need the text. You need a string. So what did we say every web element comes equipped with to, retrieve the string? Or let's say it like this. Let me comment that out. So let's say I did this. Let's say before I print anything, what is this? What is this? What does this return? If I did products.get and I wanted to lock it up into something, is it a string? Is it a what?
It's a web element.
Right. See, products.get it's a web element, right? So if I did this, it's obviously an error because what? To hover over it, change type of S to web element. It's a web element. So if this confuses you, just do it step by step. Don't feel the need to rush and type long long strings of methods one by one like this. Just get used to this first, and then you could upgrade to this. All right. So now we got each web element trapped in, right? So now I want to get the text. How do I get the text?
Element.getText.
Right. So tell me exactly what to type.
System.out.println. You do element.getText.
Right, because that getText method belongs to web element, right? So now let's try that out. Sauce Labs onesie, bike light, bold t-shirt, all of that, right? Did that work for you guys, or at that point was it the
It's this.
Yeah, I didn't get this part, but I get it.
But how about now? Does it make a little more sense? And let me know if it doesn't. I'll work as long as we need on this. But does that, how we got to this, does that make sense?
Yeah, I think like when I was doing it, I didn't like fully understand like the web element part, and like
Right.
I just assumed it'll give me the text.
Right. No. I mean, and a good way to think about that is web element itself. It comes equipped with, like, if you go to dot, right, there's so many other functions. It doesn't know what you want from it. It doesn't know if you want to click it or if you want to get, where is that? If you want to get text from it, it doesn't know, right? So clearly, a web element comes with multiple functions. You want to get the dimensions. There's so many other options that you may need. You send keys. It's like when you have a web element, like it doesn't have one here, but a search bar that you want. Well, we used it. What am I talking about in the login screen? So a web element, you want to do multiple things with it. In this case, we wanted to retrieve the text from it. That, therefore it has its own, way of doing it. And since we stored it all in this list, we could just cycle through it, iterate over it, and print that out. But at that point, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just that little distinction between find elements and find element. You see, before that, we've been using only find element. Because before that, the only thing, we had to keep track of one username field, one password field, one login button. But in this case, since there's so many, that's when it should tell you that, all right, maybe I should use, find elements, or is it a plural? All right.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. No, never mind.
To let you think that over a bit. Any other questions? Because I still want you guys to try this yourself. Even though you get it now, it'll still only stick if you do it yourself. But now is still the time to ask the question so you don't get stuck later. I mean, even if you do, I'd prefer you guys tell me in the Teams chat. I always have it up. So Fa and Berm, you were both still able to switch around. Even though you weren't initially able to use the get text. The find by visible text, and you weren't able to switch it that way. Well, Fa did it. He just didn't realize he did it successfully. So you have that piece, and my only ask from the homework was go from A to Z, and Z to A, and then just find that they're all in order. That's it.
And for, like, that part also, like, you wanted us to check every one on the list, or like.
Yeah, so in that case, so let me tell you what I mean by that. So if you were to click, and this is a very tough homework, so, that's fine. Actually, let me, so I won't assign any extra homework for this week. One, because, most of you didn't get to even really start either of them. So basically what I'm asking for is, let's say you go to A to Z, and you just have to, you see that all these values, Sauce Labs, backpack, bike light, they're all in order. We could see it from our eyes, right? Well, basically what I want you to do is to make sure that, this should go before this. So obviously your program should not only, retrieve the text, but then you should cycle one by one to see that, all right, S, A, U, C, E, L, A, B, S. So far they're both matched. But when you get to B, and then when you get to I, that makes A proceed over I, right? Because A comes before I. That's why this. So your program has to check that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then what would it do? Like, after it checks that and it realizes A is before I, What does it do then?
Well, your program just has to make sure. Well, in this case, we only have 6 products, so this pretty much you could see that it works. So basically, ideally, you should just say that all right, it passes. Really,
Like if you just do 2 items,
that will be
doesn't
enough, right?
mean
That-
every one of them is.
Say again.
I mean, if we just do the first 2 items, it doesn't mean like they're actually sorted like that throughout the
Right,
whole list.
exactly. So you have to do it like this. So this against this, this against this, this against this, this against this against this, right?
Okay.
Right? Because if this passes, that means if this is, in the proper position to this, by like, it's called like a transitive law. Like, because this is greater than this will be greater than this, right? And don't think too much into that part, but basically that's the algorithm I want, where this comes before this, comes before this, comes before this, right? That's all. So you check that, and you also make sure the opposite is true from Z to A.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I got it.
Yeah, in this case, I would have to check into your algorithms because obviously this is going to be right all the time. So you could probably make a algorithm that won't work and that'll still pass this. But yeah, that's my only ask. It seems easy, but that's going to actually be the hardest part. So after today and tomorrow, make sure to get on that ASAP because that's actually a pretty challenging thing to code up. But anything else?
Can you go back to the code really quick?
Say again?
Can you go back to the code?
Yeah, sure. You good?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So I mean, just to give like a hint as to how to approach this. What I would do is just so I don't have to worry about extracting web elements anymore. Just to give myself that relief. At line 62, you've extracted all you needed to extract, and at that point, you just need to work with the list. So what I would do is just since you have a list that's in some supposed order, I would just go down that list. So after line 62, just worry about the list. If it's easier for you, you could just put it in a separate list. I mean, you don't need to do it this way, but if it's easier for you, let's say strings let's say titles and so anyone see what I'm trying to do here?
Yeah, you're adding all the.
Right. So if you have anxiety of using web elements and you still want to refer back to strings and you just want to work with strings, because this is going to be in the given order. So onesie, bike light, bold t-shirt. You see, it's all in the order after you had clicked the where is it? After you had clicked price low to high. Actually, no, it shouldn't be low to high. It should be one of these when you do the project. But since it's going to be in that given order, and if you would prefer to work with strings for that, algorithm I'm telling you about, to do that, you could just store it all in this separate list here, and then you could just work with that. You just have to worry about that. But up to you. You could work with it directly from products list if you want. But yeah, that's up to you. But other than that, you should be good. And just like I said, if you need to create a new project, if you feel this is overwhelming, you could do it right now. You don't have to go through that whole Maven. I was just thinking about that. You don't have to go through that whole process. So let me do it one more time so you guys have a better idea of it. So just to go over the process one more time: File, New, Other. And you see a bunch of folders here. You go to drop down and you click Maven project, go to next, and click this so you don't have to worry about any other archetype selection. And don't worry about Maven, that'll come in later. I'll go exactly what I did. You know how I created those background scripts and everything? I just did it so we could go directly into Selenium. I'll tell you exactly what this is and why this is important later, but it's not important right now. So next, let's leave it all test. You just have to fill in group ID and artifact ID. Hit finish. So you see the test here. The only extra thing you'd have to do was let me see. I think we created a resources folder. Yeah, just create a resources folder. I mean, copy it like exactly how you want it, and you just copy and paste that driver from our other project, and you paste it here, and just set it up as before. But obviously, you don't have to do it that way. I recommend if you like really needed to create a new project, if you wanted to see for yourself how to do it, then do it this way. But just keep to the original and just branch out, so you'll be much more prone to experiment without errors. So let me delete that. Okay. And yeah, at the same time, work on the Pokemon project. That I think you guys can do. It's you're gonna hit a blockers for sure. The Pokemon project is a lot harder than this, and I came to realize that after I did it myself. But it's really good practice. Yeah.
Just beating it seemed pretty doable, but I don't know. I didn't try it, so.
No, it's way harder than you realize. Even something as simple as that, because you're gonna end up making so much code that you'll feel like you'll get lost in it, right? So that's why I really encourage using Git and Init and everything. You'll hit errors, you'll mess up your code. Well, that's the process. That's the only way you could get good into this type of stuff. But the main reason I'm assigning the Pokemon stuff is because you could see that even something thematically as different as that, it still has it'll still help you become a better programmer and help you see the same exact patterns in the Selenium project. It's not really that much different. But speaking of patterns, today we'll just quickly go over the page object model, and I'll tell you what I mean by that. All right. So
create a separate class for each page.
Yeah, pretty much. Way to ruin it. That's what it is.
I was gonna ask like the other day, like, are you teaching it that way, or are you teaching like a different way?
Yeah. I'm gonna teach it that way, because it's just like it's just it works. It's not the best, but usually in interviews they want you to just know it. And
Cucumber, right, or no?
Yeah. I'm gonna basically the page object model comes before Cucumber, TestNG, and all that. Yeah. But
all right.
I'll go over it because it's the simplest way to start it. So what Fa and I are talking about is, clearly you could see up until now, so far all we've done, let me delete this string. Even outside of this, sorry, open up Siri. Let me delete this. So far all we did here was we got into the web page. We hit the price low to high option here, and we got the products, scroll through the name, print it out, and despite all that, look at how messy this code looks. It's extremely messy, and at a certain point, even segregating them by methods, it won't be enough, right? So what developers do a lot of times, and this is not just in Selenium, this is for any kind of this is in software development, anything related to coding. They create something called a framework, and what a framework does, it doesn't introduce, usually a lot of times it doesn't introduce libraries Like you see how we have all these extra classes here we're adding. It doesn't necessarily include that, but what it does do, it tells you like a pattern to follow. So if anyone were to look at this code, he'll know, all right, from the basic structure of it, this coder that I'm looking, at is use the page object model, right? And he'll have a basic understanding of how you decided to, construct your entire code base, right? It'll be easier for him to follow, and it'll be easier for him to fix issues, debug, and know exactly where issues, how to locate them, and he'd be able to add on to it, right? And it won't break it as long as he abides by a few set of rules. Luckily, the page object model, it's pretty easy to understand, and basically a high-level overview. What it does do is it looks at a page, right? And if you look at any web page, if you go to it, let me start from the very beginning. You'll see a login page, and if you log in, you get logged in and you land on the landing page, which usually this is what they call it, the landing page. And then you see the products, and I'm just going off what Sauce Demo is, but this could easily be applied to Amazon. So far, I haven't really said anything so far that distinguishes Sauce Demo from Amazon. You log in, you land on the product page, you click on a product, and it sends you to the product page, right? What the page object model does is it tries to create a framework around that whole idea, right? So don't worry too much about what it is right now. You'll see how it makes sense and how it applies to all the abstract level concepts we've been using. You'll see how it applies. Let's see if there are any other part. And obviously there's the checkout or the cart page, right? So all it's saying is, and I want you guys to kind of abide by this now. I know you didn't get to really resolve the homework, but nonetheless, I prefer you to start getting familiar with this really quickly. So what you really have is page objects, and you see I already kind of started. And you create classes based on the pages in the web app, right?
Are we supposed to follow along?
Yeah, why?
No, I'm like, supposed to create these pages while you're talking about them?
If you want, but since this is all recorded, I think it's better just to pitch in and ask questions.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
And later, try to do it yourself. And if you can't do it, you always have the videos to rely on. So, I have the login page. I didn't do anything to it yet. I have the product page. I didn't do anything yet, right? And I just go down the list. And usually the best place to start is with these page objects because it's really easy to, it's very intuitive. Why not match each class to its page? So let's see.
Mm-hmm.
So I got the login page, and like we saw, product page, and we'll say cart or cart page. I think there was a checkout page. Let me make sure. So now we're on the cart page, right? And if I go to checkout, there's a checkout page, right? So don't even worry about overfilling it. Usually in this specific scenario, the more is actually better, and you'll come to realize why. Hit continue. And we'll just call it the overview page. Up to you. But ultimately, everyone has to agree to it once you're in an actual project. I already have the checkout page. Login page. Did we call the checkout page something else? Product page, add to cart. Cart page. Oh, we call this the checkout page. So call this the overview page. finish that and order complete page. Right. So far, nothing crazy just yet. You see, I have a separate test runner file, and this basically like before. This is where all the this is where the actual test case gets executed. But all the page object model tells you is instead of containing all the information pertaining to that specific page, like all these expats, don't strew them across your code. Put the actual expats inside the actual classes. So if at any time the developer changes this UI around, like for instance, if they removed I don't know, the back button, right? That's an important change. But you don't have to shuffle through like a list of expats, right? Because this is located in your what do we call it, the order complete page, right? So right off the bat, there's direct value right there. There's some kind of ordering. Right. So I'm not gonna fill in all of them, but let's fill in what we've done so far. Let me log out. So right off the bat, you see that I'm not writing expat for username field, expat for password, right? That's important because right there we're reducing repetition. We're reducing like all this bulk of like how we did it here, and I have this separate method here just to show you how we used to do it. Expat for username, expat for password, expat, etc. You don't have to do that anymore because you pretty much intuitively know what it's referring to, right? Sorry, bad habit. Username. Right, and we could give it the whatever we had for before. So inspect it. I don't know why it's not working. All right, input. I'd rather use ID. User dash name. Let me just make sure. I just want to do this quickly. I don't want to waste too much time assigning them, but this is what we had. Okay, and just like before, I'm not gonna do the rest. That's gonna be up to you for homework. After there's some little more to come, but I'm gonna do a login page and the product page because that's something we've already went over before. So just to give you guys a visual guide. Inventory item name. And I think that was it for this page actually. So the one main thing, so far this didn't really introduce anything. Make sure to privatize it, because obviously this XPath belongs to the product page and nothing else. You don't want to be able to change that around. So outside of XPath, delegation, I didn't really go over the main quality to why this is useful, and that's because we didn't use abstract classes yet. So with how we've used abstract classes, what do you think I do with all of these? Can you think of a way to make all of this abstract, like with what we? So just to give you, jog your memory. For Pokemon, obviously, despite it being a Bulbasaur, Charmander, whatever, there was that guiding class that lets us reduce the fat of the actual, classes we extend from or we extend into. How do you think? What do you think? How do we start? You don't need to give me the complete answer, but off the bat, how do we start to handle it? Where all of these login pages, they do have commonalities, but how do we start? Binding them.
Would you go in order?
What do you mean?
When you go to the website, you're first at the login page. So you have the login page, then you're at the products page. So you would say products page. Extends login page.
It's very close. Not exactly, because if I were to say extend login page, the product page would then have access to these XPaths. And can you use these XPaths here in this product page? No, right? So it's a good guess, but not quite it. You're close.
The abstract page.
Right, you're getting there.
And you would have
instructors.
No, it's close. You guys are going towards it. Just tell me what you think you want me to do. Once you find kind of exhaust yourself, I'll start pitching in.
You put the common stuff among the pages?
Right, and what's common for most pages? Like some kind of functionality that you think is common for all pages. Despite being a login page, product page, checkout page.
Back button.
Right, exactly. Well, not back button, because this doesn't have a back button, but you mean like back functionality, because that's common, right?
Yeah.
Right. Okay, keep going.
I don't know what else besides those two.
I mean, you could click stuff, right? You could input fields, right?
Yeah.
Right. Any kind of ideas of what I'm getting at?
Put all the input stuff in it.
Right. So let me get to this is kind of a tough concept to grasp at first, and you'll see it right away when I do it. But it's good to always kind of edge you towards it. So what the page object model does is you create a base class. Sorry, not interface. Sorry, a base page, which is a base class. That's why I got mixed up for a second, right? And then you make it abstract, right? And what do you think I do with that base page?
You make a what do you call that?
Constructor?
Constructor, yeah.
Right. And this is kind of this I'll also kind of really edge you along, because this is also kind of tough to grasp at first. But let me see. So in the login page, if I make a method, for instance, called okay, let me bring up the execute class, because this is where the main kind of let's say test using POM, page object model, right? And since we created classes, we could do it like this. We could do that, right? We could import it. And obviously from the login page, you go to the, and I'm giving you like a future of what this will ultimately look and why this has utility, right? And you have the product page, because right after login, you go to product. And this is not complete yet, so don't get the wrong idea. This is supposed to accept something, and I'll let you know what. All right, and obviously you have despite all these classes, I still don't have the actual web automation functionality. Despite login, this is still empty. This is still just a string. What is that main thing that we need in order to even automate in the first place? So think of this as, don't look at anything else. What is this missing from the first place? And look at the test back, this function here for reference. What is it that we even need in the first place to automate? That's giving us the capability.
Web driver?
Right, exactly. Without the web driver, you can't automate, period, right? So let's see. Yeah, obviously you set the property, but that's not important. But Berm had the right answer. So let's put the path to WebDriver right here. Right, and this is just the setup stage, right? And technically, this has everything we have to automate. This points to the WebDriver, the actual driver we have right here. We set the property, right? You reference to the path to driver. We create a WebDriver, specifically the Chrome driver, and this is what we have ready to automate, right? But how is it that these login page, this product page, can begin to start using that driver? What do you think? What do you think you do with that class?
Create an object.
Well, we got the WebDriver object right here, right? But can this begin using that? How is it that this can begin using that? That driver, WebDriver driver, right? How do you begin using that? How do you let login page be able to use that driver? Then this is tricky to grasp at first, so don't worry if it's taking time. I don't expect you to really get it until you see it.
Do you need to import it into the login page class?
Right, exactly. Well, not exactly, but very close, right? So import, not exactly, but because if I import, right, I could import WebDriver, but if I I would create a new instance, right? So I could do something like this.
Create a new instance, okay.
Right, and that's not referring to that instance I just created to summon the web page, right? But very close.
But you would need to.
What's the question again?
So the question was, you have this Chrome driver, right?
Mm-hmm.
But ideally, I want for this login page to be able to use that Chrome driver. So let me kind of even edge you along a little more. So the login, a functionality would be this. So let me type a bit more. So now I'm just typing in the skeleton. So ideally, the utility comes when I can do stuff like this. So it begins to really look like a basic step-by-step scenario user goes through. It starts looking very reminiscent of what a user would do. Right? Now the problem is, if I run this, nothing would happen because one, there's nothing in the login page here. Right? I did create a skeleton, but there's nothing in here just yet.
You would have to make a driver class and then
which I did here, right?
No, I'm in like in
If
a
I were to
separate.
do, yeah, I got you. But if I were to make a driver class like somewhere, you're saying I do something like this? You're saying like that?
No, I was saying make like an entirely separate class for like the driver.
What do
That
you-
way you can call on it from any other class.
I'm not sure what you mean by that though.
Okay, never mind. Maybe I'm lost.
Was that berm or fa?
That was me.
Okay.
Mm,
So let's go off that constructor idea. Remember, this is not any different from the Pokemon class. No different at all. It's just how you think of it. So what can I do with that constructor, you think? So
Super.
again, let me close them out and let me put them. Let me save it and let me put it beside it so it's easy. Oh man, it's giving me issues. All right, login page. Product page. All right. All right. So just follow along. Forget all this. This is a configuration step. I have the driver. We know that this is going to pull up Chrome easily. Well, not just yet because we haven't done the driver dot get function. Well, actually, let's do that then. This is not going to work because I didn't put the full URL. And let's say, so at this step, you have the page up, right? We saw it. Now we need this to work. How do we make this work? Because right now, if I go to input username, there's nothing in it. Input password, nothing in it, right? So just look at it for a second. Ish, any ideas?
I'm trying to think.
So a good, pretty much exactly what we did before. All I want is after I hit run that this just does exactly as I said here. Inputs username, inputs password, clicks login button. Don't even mess around with the product page yet. I just want this to work. How do I make it work? Let me put the correct URL here so we could actually run it and see what happens.
Well, first you have to import the.
I know what you mean by import, but that's not quite what. Well, keep going. What do you mean by import?
Okay, hold on. No.
I'll give you a hint. This is incomplete. This is incomplete. There's something missing that I willingly put out that I want you guys to kind of think of what login page and product page are missing. It could be a parameter or anything.
You make a getter,
What do you mean?
like you get login page and then like all the information, like your name, password, login button.
Tell me exactly what you want me to type, because I'm not sure what you mean.
Into input username, like that specific function.
Okay, into input username, what do you want me to put?
No, I'm asking you because you have your cursor there.
Oh, okay, what do you want me to put in here?
Okay, so I mean, I guess that's a setter, right? Like input user.
No, it's not a setter. I would have put set something here, right? Everything is set that I need, right? Each of the login pages have their respective XPaths. Username and product page.
Just super that to like where are we extending from?
I'm not extending this from anything for now.
Okay.
For now, just forget about that base page I created for now. Just let's focus on the login page, because right now
you want to return username. Like if you call for the public void, the input username.
Okay.
Shit. Hold on.
Okay.
I mean, for input username, so then I'm guessing that's just like typing the username into the field, right?
Yeah, and we did it before right here. Driver.find element,
Okay.
send keys, right? We did it
So
already.
I guess like your input username would be like a script to input the username.
Yeah, but
Right,
so I'll scroll over to it and you tell me what you want me to type. Let me zoom out a bit.
Need the driver, right?
Yeah, that I trust me. I know what I'm doing. I know you guys are confused about how to handle that driver. That's what I'm trying
You take the driver as a parameter.
to what you're getting there.
Input username.
Close. You could do that.
Or you put it in the constructor.
Very good. That's it. What would happen if I put it in the username?
You'd have to do it for every single one.
Right. Exactly. That's it. You guys see what he said? So, for instance, what Ish is saying is, first he said, all right, what if I did this, right? And just like we did here, what if we, let me copy and paste it. Well, let me not. Let me import it. And this is what berm you mean by import. Import just is referring to the, library, right? And obviously they all need it. I could import it, right? And this is good. And what Ish initially said was this. Element by .xpath. See, I get all these classes back just like I did here, just by importing. And we have our XPath for username right here. We'll just say username. Okay, so technically, well, first of all, since initially we put input username would have no fields in it, that alone would make it not work, right? Initially, what Ish said is the one thing he did get right, though, right, is this would take in that driver, that same session driver, that would accept it, right? So let's say, so for instance, what he means is I could do this. Now let me know if you can't see. So far so good. It's right, technically. I got the driver, that same one I used to open up the page. It takes in, that login page takes it in. What the problem is, this is good so far, even though you'll have a problem later if you wanted to change up the username. So this takes in that driver, but what if I wanted to input that password and that using that same driver? It's a question.
You could do the same thing, can't you?
Yeah, I'd have to keep on doing the same thing, right? That's a problem. It's that don't repeat yourself principle, right? Then I have to do the same thing over here. Can you guys think of a way where I don't have to I don't have to repeat myself constantly? Ish kind of said it. He was saying you use the constructor. Well, how do you think you use that constructor? I'll comment this out.
You asking me?
I think you already know.
Oh, okay.
So, Berm or Fi, you guys have any ideas?
No, I'm just following along.
Okay. Ish, you want to give the answer?
Okay, so...
So you're right, you're honing in on it. You're saying the login page should take in the parameter of the driver.
Okay, so since all your functions are gonna use the driver anyway, you should put it in the parameter for the constructor.
Okay.
So that when you initialize it, it already has it, right?
Right. Not yet. We're still missing stuff, but you're on the right path.
So then, I mean, you also want a variable, so private
Right.
driver.
Exactly. Okay, keep going.
And then you just do this.driver equals driver, and then now you can use it in
Right,
all
and,
your
and I don't need
stuff.
to always accept the same exact parameter constantly, right? So in this case, how would I do it? How would I complete this method?
Wouldn't you do it the same way? You just do.
Yeah. Okay, now since this is well, before I continue, do you, Berman 5, do you see what he did there?
Yes, kind of.
Kind of. Okay.
Made a variable.
So, obviously, Ish at first thought, all right, why not pass that driver into that method, right? But the problem is, if we keep passing it onto a method, we could send the keys, and we could interact with the username field, but that would mean we have to do it for every single, every single method. Why not just lock it up here, right? That way, during this login page creation, and I didn't complete it here, that's why you see the red. So this is what we would do. You pass in that driver, and you don't see any errors, so the login page takes in that driver, locks it in. That way, anytime you use that input username, input password, any type of something specific to the login page, it has that driver inside, right? And then for you, password, what do you think I would put in? For input password, this method, how do I fill it in?
Just do the same thing.
Yeah.
Driver, final.
Right? Tell me if that makes sense though, because this is a high level concept to get. Ish gets it because he's been exposed to this stuff for a while. But tell me if this makes sense, and we'll do it. Don't worry about the product page. Let me just even comment that out. So login page. So you did all the configuration steps. You went into the URL. You created a login page. You took in that driver because these input username, input password, click login button, they're dependent on that driver, right? Because otherwise these were empty, right? So during that constructor step, you take in that driver, you lock it in here. Why do you lock it in here?
So it can be used.
It could be used at every step, and you'd have to keep repeating it here, right?
Yeah.
But all right. We'll end it after one more thing, because this is kind of you need kind of some time to really digest it. Input username, input password. There's still one problem with it. What do you think it is?
Where do you type in the actual username and
Right,
password?
right, exactly. So what do you think I do to those methods to give me that functionality?
Make it a parameter.
Right. Keep going. So we'll start with here. What do you do here?
You make it a. Can't you just pass that info in?
Yeah, but tell me exactly what you want me to do.
Can't you make it a field in the login page first, and then?
What do you mean? So for instance, let's say I'm in this class, right? And I wanted to test out string username equals, I don't know, Jimmy, and string password equals, I don't know, pass, right? I want to be able to, you see what I'm saying, right? I'm in this outside class and I'm trying to test these username and password out. What would I do to input username and input password to test these parameters out? Because right now, as it's built out, there's no way to pass this in. How do I build this out to be able to pass that username and password in?
So you put in the parameters of input username. You put a string.
Exactly. Username, right? And let me separate this. Let's call it expat for now, whatever. Because then it'll confuse it. Okay, you were saying? So you got that, string username, you're right. Anything else?
You edit the send keys part.
Right, exactly.
You put username.
Yep. Okay, now do the same for input password.
String password and then.
Yep. Okay. Lastly, what do I do for login? Click login button. Let me
Click find element.
Say again, Fa? Go ahead.
Driver dot find element. My expat. Login button. Expat. Dot click.
Yep. Okay. So this is all built out. I don't see any errors. Let me see. I don't want this to fail. This looks good. All right, let's run it. Oh, we didn't quit, but that's fine. Jimmy, the pass, and obviously it doesn't match, so it didn't actually go in. It didn't match any of the accepted username. But,
yeah.
Say again?
No, like I'm saying, you kept it at Jimmy and pass.
Yeah, that's not one of the accepted usernames, so it naturally gives you this error, right? That's just how that's built out. But yeah, you already see now with these abstractions, you could have had all of this where it doesn't make any sense, but you could clearly see how someone could, come in and know, at least have somewhat of an idea of what you're doing. But the main thing about this is, it's very bare bones, and I know it sounds very simple at first, but you'll see in the future, well, tomorrow you'll see how this alone gives you a lot more options than before. But let's end it here. This is a kind of a high level thing to deal with, but you guys did good. But we'll keep expanding on it tomorrow. Not too much, because I still want you to, I want you to work on that filter homework now, but with page object model in mind. So we'll complete page objects by tomorrow. And the homework, I won't assign any additional ones, but you'll work on the Pokemon one, and you'll work on this, except you'll use POM now, and not this, for instance. But yep, we're good to go. See you guys tomorrow.
Okay.
All right. See you tomorrow.
Later.
Peace.
Peace.